have a good few attendees in at the moment, so we will just start. So hopefully everyone can see the screen there at the moment. That's our agenda for this morning. So we'll have our usual welcome from Professor Joyce O'Connor, and then we'll have our speaker for this morning, Michael Young, CEO of Equideq, which is a software company that has built a fractionalized ownership exchange for bloodstock sales around a blockchain infrastructure. So a hugely interesting application of the technology in one of the most ancient industries in the world, and one that is close to the heart of many Irish people. So in a slight change to our usual format, we're going to have an update from Blockchain Ireland Week, some other activity from Blockchain Ireland in general, and some information from our working groups. And because we have quite a bit of information to deliver around that, we're going to have an open Q&A around the Blockchain Ireland Week and the work of the working groups, just to let everybody ask any questions that they want in terms of how the groups are organized and everything. So we have a few updates and announcements around the work of the groups as well. So then it'll be back to Professor O'Connor for closing remarks and close. And I'm going to ask Professor O'Connor for her address.
Hi, Paul, and thanks very much. Good morning to all of you. I hope you're all keeping well and staying safe. You're very welcome to this April's Blockchain Ireland Cluster Technology Ireland ICT Skillnet meeting. My name is Joyce O'Connor, co-founder and chair of BlockW, a female-led network whose mission is to increase access to blockchain technology as well as other emerging technologies, and to encourage equity and diversity in its use and application. BlockW also fosters inclusivity by helping to provide pathways and access to education, training and skills around blockchain and other emerging technologies. This is the 6th meeting since we re-established the Blockchain Ireland cluster with you in November. How time flies, even in this pandemic. In November, we asked you to be part of this new phase of development and to provide leadership to create an ambience of excitement around Blockchain Ireland's future growth and blockchain's future growth in terms of the industry. We are well on our way. On behalf of the Blockchain Ireland Steering Group, our chair, Dave Feenan, and members of the group, Fiona Delaney, Bernard Gaughan, Paul Hearns, Laurie Keogh, Ian Keane, Dave Lawler, Pierce Ryan, and myself, a big thank you. You have taken the challenge, participated widely, and contributed to all our activities so far, and have shown great leadership and enthusiasm. As you know, preparation for Blockchain Ireland Week is underway, and today Dara Lawler and Amber Daly will give us an overview of the planning and programme for Blockchain Ireland Week. Thank you for your contribution in making this week happen. Your participation in our working groups has been very productive, and on the basis of your work, we have started work on a blockchain strategy for Ireland. There's a series of webinars now available on YouTube, and you've participated in the ESRI Blockchain Ireland survey to identify and document for the blockchain community the blockchain skills and needs and gaps to provide a roadmap for policymakers in terms of investment and funding for education and training and skills. Your participation has been critical. You will have helped define the key issues for the future for the blockchain community in relation to skills. If you have not as yet filled in the survey, there's still time. And if you want to contact me on LinkedIn or the Blockchain Ireland LinkedIn phase with the survey, there's a link to the survey there, and would be great if you had time to fill it up and send it to the ESRI. We'll be coming back to you in June to undertake focus group meetings on areas that the survey identified we need more information to fill in the gaps. Two further developments. Blockchain Ireland is proud to be a founding member of the Blockchain Association Forum, a gathering of 43 blockchain associations from across the world. And Paul will give you more details about this. And a new course that you might be interested in applying for or getting your colleagues or friends to apply for. It's a certificate at level 7, and it's a certificate in emerging digital technologies. BlockW, in partnership with NCI and ICT Skillnet Technology Ireland, have developed this program. All details are on the NCI website and also on the ICT Skillnet Technology Ireland website. To our speaker now, as Paul has said, this is a very interesting and exciting development, and a special welcome to Michael Young, CEO of Equideq, which was established in 2019. Horses, I think you'll say, have always had a very special position in Irish life. The sport of kings, we often hear. But of course, there is another side to the horse industry and horse racing. Many people, including myself, will put a punt on the Irish Grand National or the Aintree Grand National and love to see a horse owned by an Irish consortium win that race. We would all like to be part of that syndicate. Michael Young and his company, Equideq, have made this possible. Made it possible to purchase a share in a racehorse through fractionalisation of ownership. And he'll tell you all the other things that the company is doing. Michael has applied this principle to bloodstock sales using blockchain technology to safely and efficiently enable people like ourselves to purchase a share in a racehorse. It's a really interesting story. So, Paul, over to you to introduce Michael.
Thank you very much, Professor O'Connor. And really, there's not much I can add to that. That's a great introduction. Just a little bit of housekeeping in terms of our format this morning. If you look at the bottom of your screen, we have our usual Q&A function there. So we will have time to address questions specifically to Michael after his presentation. So I will just ask Michael to come on camera there.
Hi, Paul, and thank you very much, Joyce.
After your introduction there, I don't think we can add anything more useful. So please do feel free to share your screen. And as I said, we will have a dedicated Q&A for Michael afterwards before we go into the rest of our program. So please do feel free to type into the Q&A there, and we will address questions to Michael afterwards. So Michael, thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for that introduction, Paul. And Joyce, particularly, that was a great introduction. You nearly gave my presentation. But it's interesting that you mentioned Sport of Kings, Joyce. And I think that's really what we're trying to shift, is move away really from horse ownership and racing being exclusive to high net worth individuals, and really make it more accessible to everyone. So that's really what I'm looking forward to kind of talking with people today. So hello, everyone. Look, formally, I'm Michael Young. I'm the CEO of Equideq and the founder. It's great to be here. I'm really looking forward to kind of giving you an overview. But you know what? I'd like to kind of give you a little bit of a sneak peek at the platform today as well. Talk a little bit about, of course, the blockchain technology, and even giving you folks a chance, hopefully, to ask some questions. So let's just jump straight in. So I'm conscious that, look, some people aren't going to be as familiar with the horse industry, so I thought it'd be a good place to start and just give people a little bit of background on the horse industry. I like to kind of think of it as like an iceberg, right? What you see on the surface usually is, you know, the horse racing side of things, but beneath the surface, really, there's a huge global industry in terms of breeding, in terms of training, moving to racing, and then of course the global betting and gambling industry, which is absolutely huge. A lot of people would actually think that really horse racing is really just, you know, localized to Ireland and the UK and a few other countries, but you can see there that really, even though it's huge in Ireland and the UK, there's still 20,000 horses here. There's almost 250,000 in 2018 horses racing across 52 countries. A lot of people wouldn't realize, for example, that there's 30,000 horses in training in Scandinavia alone. Okay, so it's a huge global industry. Ireland, absolutely, and the UK, we definitely punch above our weight in terms of our presence on the world stage. And that's a wonderful stat there. 35% of the world's top flat horses come out of Ireland and the UK. And I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with the big breeding operations like Coolmore down in Tipperary, Godolphin, Kildangan Stud, and the Aga Khan studs, and the fantastic training operations we have as well with Aidan O'Brien and Ballydoyle Stable. So it's definitely a big industry here as well, but also on the global stage. And another interesting stat that a lot of people probably aren't that aware of is the fact that horse racing is actually the second largest spectator sport in Ireland and the UK, and almost 7 million people attending race courses in 2018. And it wouldn't be complete, I guess, without not mentioning the gambling industry and the amount of money that is just spent alone on backing horses in Ireland and the UK. 20 billion in a single year in 2018, but still 110, almost 110 billion globally. So horse racing, horse gambling, the entire industry, it's a huge global industry. In terms of the challenges, look, the horse industry is no different to a lot of industries right now, experiencing challenges, going through a lot of change. The horse industry, or particularly the sport, is really struggling, I think, to really retain the interest of the younger demographic, and also to keep pace with all the technology and the rapid pace of technological change that's happening all around us. But there are a couple of key the challenges, I think, that are worth calling out. The first one is around ownership. And ownership is really the lifeblood of the industry. Without ownership, without people buying horses, without people racing horses, there is really no industry. And unfortunately, sole ownership, where an individual is purchasing and racing a horse, has actually been in decline now for some time. And the simple truth is, it's just becoming so prohibitively expensive. And we've even seen some high-profile exits in the last number of years, with Michael O'Leary and Jigginstown Stud pulling out of national hunt racing. Racecourse attendance has also struggled as well. And even though it's still the largest or second largest spectator sport, again, struggling to kind of really bring the younger demographic along. Also, a big part here is online gambling. Okay, gambling moving online, moving off course. People can now, gamble and view races on their phone. They don't necessarily have to be at the race course. But you know what? A lot of people as well, they're just not that interested anymore in going along to see other people's horses race. Digital innovation, it's worth calling out here. Large parts of the industry have probably not been good adopters of technology, and the exception, of course, being, like we said, the gambling industry, which we all know has really leveraged mobile platforms, social media, and other forms of technology to really drive that to be a very, very lucrative business. But the other sectors, like I spoke about, breeding, racing, and training, have really been laggards in that respect. But there's also a lot of positives, okay? And one of the big positives we see is fractional ownership and growth in fractional ownership. And fractional ownership is really where a lot of people are coming together to share the cost of purchase and racing a horse. And that can be 4 people, it can be 20, it can be 100, it can even be thousands. And we're really seeing a real steady trend and increase, and 3% year on year the last 7 or 8 years across Ireland and the UK, and also good growth globally. And in fact, 30% of horses in training and racing in the UK, for example, right now are actually fractionalized owned, which is terrific. Race viewership is held up quite well. Again, a big part probably due to gambling and people now being able to view a lot of races on their mobile devices. But fractional ownership, where now you have many people, involved in a horse as opposed to just a single individual, really has the power to drive a lot more people to engage in the sport and even bring them along to race courses. And an interesting one is the Kentucky Derby, or the Breeders' Cup, only recently in the US. The winner of that was a horse by the name of Authentic, and Authentic was fractionally owned by over 5,000 people in the US. Okay. And you can see the power of that in terms of driving people to engage in the sport. Another interesting stat actually is in the last year, viewership in the US, for example, has gone up 300%, largely due to COVID-19. Okay, and people being at home and watching horse racing, but just goes to show the power that horse racing can be very attractive and engage a big audience. So the final one there, digital innovation, and I have a question mark around that, because it's really now, where does the horse industry want to go in terms of really following, I guess, in what the gambling industry has done in terms of leveraging technology, but the other sectors to really make fractional ownership more accessible, and also make the sport much more engaging. So that leads into the next slide, which is really, the vision around Equideq, and really, what formed the vision for us was really about solving that immediate challenge that we saw in the industry, to really make fractional ownership much more manageable and much more scalable. Because as a lot of people will know, when you democratize and when you open up something to a much, much wider audience, and particularly fractionalize an asset into tens or hundreds or thousands of components, there's a lot more administrative overhead that's required. And this is where technology can play a big part. And that really then is our goal in getting technology embedded into these other sectors of the industry, and really, I guess, the digitalization of the sector. Because then really what that can open up is really, like I said, to make that ownership and much more accessible and affordable. And our vision really is on the back of what the betting industry has done, taking a leaf out of their book, really to make the purchase and trading of a share or a micro share in a horse as easy as it is to back a horse. And on that digital platform, then there's a huge opportunity to really build up that better online and fan engagement experience, which can draw in a whole much wider audience. So that's what the vision of Equideq is, and that's what we set out to do, and that's what we've done. And really, in the last year and a half, 2 years, with a bunch of guys that have worked in betting exchanges and trading platforms, we built a platform, a financial services platform, leveraging blockchain technology to fractionalize a horse. Okay, to automate the process of fractionalizing a horse into hundreds or even thousands of microshares, and really to make those available on a platform where people could purchase them as part of an initial offering on a primary market, and even trade those shares for fun in racing or for breeding, investment purposes, trade those on a secondary market. And also the digitalization of the payments and all the transactional history, just like an online bank account, make that fully transparent and accessible to people. And then, like I said, build on top of that really the user experience, which is paramount in terms of the benefits and communications and rewards that can go with being a horse owner. And just to kind of give people an idea of the business model and how this works for us, again, we're a technology provider, and we've developed this platform, and we're now making it available to our partners in the industry. We're essentially giving this technology out to the industry now, out to the trainers and breeders to come through and work with our partners to essentially make it very easy for them to promote their horses on the platform. And then at the other side, the public can very easily get in there now, and they can see horses from right across the industry and very easily purchase microshares in those horses, build up their portfolio, manage all their payments, and have that experience. So I think the best thing is probably jump in and show you folks a little peek of the platform. So folks, by all means, feel free to go into equideq.com, register, purchase shares, please. I'd be delighted. So the platform, as you can see here, you can see some of our partners here. And this is interesting. Irish National Stud is a partner of ours for the racing and breeding bloodstock. You can click through to the Irish National Stud. and the Irish National Stud actually use our platform now, branded up in their own colours, but all linked back centrally to the central Equideq site. But you can view all their racing and breeding bloodstock. Here, in fact, we've got a filly foal, which we, for breeding, for investment purposes, that was made available as part of a planned offer only recently and sold out or was reserved pretty quickly. That foal will be made available now in the coming next week, actually, as part of an initial offering where people can now go in, people who've reserved their shares, and actually order them. So that's the Irish National Stud. If I go back to Equideq, and let me actually log in, and you can log into the Equideq site with your account, or log into the Irish National Stud side. Again, you're seeing all the horses here. They're the Irish National Stud horses now appearing on the central Equideq site. So it's really like a hub-spoke model, I guess, folks, where all our partners can leverage our technology, and then they're all linked back into the central Equideq site where you can manage all your portfolio. And as a user here with my test account, I have my portfolio. Here you can see that I've reserved a share here in the foal that was made available and is now going to be made available as part of an initial offer next week. In my portfolio, I also have some shares that I already own. I have a share in Cogent, which is a racehorse trained by Jessica Harrington, and Favre Logique, which is a national hunt horse trained by Ross O'Sullivan. And those shares right now are listed on the exchange. Okay, and the exchange is actually open. I can pop in here into the exchange, and right now you can see that people are able to buy and sell and trade these racing shares for fun. Okay, on the Equideq exchange. Of course, we have the history of all the payments, like I mentioned, digitalization of all the payments. People can see all the credit and debit payments coming out of their account when they're ordering shares. They can see pending transactions that are happening on the markets, and of course, managing all their personal settings, payment details, identity verification. For anti-money laundering and KYC, we're actually integrated with another Irish company called IDPal for verifying the identity of our customers, which is important, as I said, for AML requirements. And that's it. As a snapshot, that's really the platform. Again, feel free to jump in there later to take a look. So now I just want to jump in here and talk a little bit about, this is Blockchain Ireland after all, and I want to obviously talk to you folks a little bit about how we're leveraging technology. And again, the blockchain is just another form of technology. It's just another piece of technology under the bonnet. But really, in terms of the evolution path of technology and where we're going with our solution, I think a lot of you can probably see that the current solution, before we've started introducing Equideq to the industry, the current solution or the previous solution out there was no solution. Okay, a fractionalisation of horses is really a manual, cumbersome process. A lot of folks are using spreadsheets, Excel spreadsheets. Yes, there are some larger syndicates now starting to use e-commerce platforms to try and manage the payments and shares, but they're still very restrictive in being able to properly digitalize the workflows and a lot of the other variables that go with selling a horse and also managing a horse throughout its career. And also, very importantly, like I stress a lot, is the user experience. To date, I think it's very ad hoc. A lot of different platforms, nothing that's bringing, really cohesive, bringing it all together. And this is the key thing. Even with any alternative asset provider out there, whether you're selling shares in casks of whiskey or whether it's in forestry, it's not enough just to provide a platform to sell these. You really need to be bringing the user along on the journey and really engaging them throughout the life cycle of that asset. So really, that's where we went to. Like I said, with Equideq today, our focus was really, and this is what we've launched, and this is what we've acted out there in the marketplace, and you've seen it with the Irish National Stud. really to automate the workflows. And when I say automate the workflows, I mean all the stakeholders that are involved in, making a horse available, allowing shares to be purchased, allowing payments and shares to flip and between the different stakeholders, allowing payments on a regular basis to go to a trainer that's training a horse or to an agent that's managing that horse as a trusted agent on behalf of the group. Digitalization of the payments and shares obviously was a big part. And right now, our digital shares are crypto assets. We're creating them on a private blockchain ledger. And we're using Quorum, which is used to be JP Morgan, developed for financial services, now Consensus Quorum technology for creating our essentially taking all the, creating the encrypted record of all the assets on the platform, locking in the identity, locking in the financial, locking in the contractual details of each of those horses that are made available on the platform. Also, very importantly for us is, really bringing some structure, security and transparency to how people are engaging and purchasing these shares and trading these shares and throughout the life cycle of the asset. And essentially, we are acting as a crowdfund service provider. And again, the benefits of providing and using blockchain and our private blockchain ledger is really to create that immutable record on the blockchain that's fully auditable, fully defensible. We can use a blockchain explorer for our customers to go in and see a full history of all the transactions that are happening on the platform as well. And like I said earlier, that's really then building that digital platform for us to be able to start to improve that user experience for our customers. And right now, we're already able to tie in the benefits on this digital platform for our users. Prize money goes straight into people's accounts. If a horse wins or is placed in a race, and people can begin to see, what benefits they have on race day, going along to the race course, admission to the race course, parade ring access, etc., and all the other types of rewards that can go with horse ownership. I guess the key thing is what we're working on and where we're going and where we're taking the platform. And, it'll become more apparent why we are going down the route of blockchain, or have gone down the route of leveraging blockchain technology. For us, it's an interesting balance really between the technology and what your audience is ready for. Okay, and really in the coming months and longer time frame, our roadmap and our releases will not just be tied to the technology, but really when our audience is ready for this and ready for these shifts. Okay, and really blockchain can really allow us to evolve our solution now and take it to the next level, which we're already working on, and start to incorporate cryptocurrencies, move more towards the standards around security tokens like ERC20 security tokens, which is not just creating a security token on our platform, but will allow us then to have interoperability between potentially other third-party exchanges and actually trade our security tokens outside our own platform. Very importantly as well, and really where blockchain is adding a lot of power for us, and we're already starting to use Solidity for smart contracts on our private blockchain to really start to control more of the processes. But really where we see this going is really moving to, and it's ironic really, you look at decentralized governance. No, it doesn't mean we're just going to open it up to the Wild West. It just means that we can now start using blockchain and the smart contracts more and more to automate and control processes on a public blockchain. Now, it'll still be permissioned. We'll still control who has access to certain actions on the platform, because again, for AML and knowing your customer, very, very important for regulatory requirements, but it will still allow us to automate much more of the oversight and due diligence that's required from a CF, or crowdfund service provider, to be able to allow more and more of the industry globally to be able to just come onto the platform, make their horses available, public to go in and purchase those in a secure and transparent way. And again, at all times, it's really, focused in on building this platform where we've now digitalized for now and for the future horses and creating those crypto assets and those digital payments. That on top of that platform, we really have some amazing plans for really how we can really enhance the user experience and really make it much, much, much more engaging. And I don't want to give away too much there, aside from say, stay tuned, and hopefully maybe sometime in the future I can come back and probably share a little bit more on where we've taken the platform. So that's it. Thank you very much for your time. And Paul, I'll hand it back to you, and maybe we'll open it up to some Q&A.
Indeed, we've got several questions in there already, but just to allow everyone to kind of gather their thoughts and to remind them that the Q&A function is down at the bottom, but there's also a raise hand function there if you wish to actually come on and address a question directly. And just a reminder again, these sessions are recorded to make them later available, and that's done via the YouTube channel. But just to come back a little bit, Michael, it's a hugely interesting prospect that essentially this is more or less a fully fledged trading platform. So it's a hugely interesting application. But you mentioned a number of key components in terms of the process for fractionalizing, in terms of accessibility, scalability, security, automation. So how did you go about assessing the technologies that were available for this, and what led you to blockchain in particular?
So why blockchain? I think like I said, we always had an immediate challenge, Paul, that we wanted to kind of set out to really try and solve. And really that was around the digitalization, and particularly around the digitalization of shares. And the more we looked again at blockchain, not like I said, just around solving that immediate challenge, but really around where it can go and really where it can evolve over time. And really, I guess what we were able to do immediately was, like I said, create those crypto assets. It's very, very important for us, particularly when you have shares in a horse, locking in that identity of all the stakeholders, because there's so many stakeholders involved. Right? You can have a consignor, you can have an agent, you can have a trainer, you can have a breeder, you can have a vendor, the person that's purchasing that share, locking all that in, that identity, that financial, that contractual information into a crypto asset that really we could make, put that onto an immutable record for security and transparency for our audience. But really then I guess, it's doing that, it's making it available on our own centralized platform in a private blockchain sense. But really then we've got the foundation to really evolve that to the next level and take that to the next stage, which we're working on in terms of now, like I said, starting to look at using ERC, or more standardized security token protocols, which allow, like you said, the exchange not just to be internal to Equideq, but essentially these security tokens now to potentially be valuable and traded on external exchanges. But really then it's the control, right? It's the control and the distributed, I guess, global nature that we can really leverage the public blockchain network for, to put our application out on a public network, to really incorporate a lot of the governance into the technology. And that's the wonderful thing about blockchain. With Solidity contracts, you can build those smart contracts. They can control more and more and automate more and more of that governance and oversight, and still give you options where you can still keep it permissioned, right? So to stay, very important for us, stay on side with the regulator, make sure we're in full adherence of best practice around financial services, best practice and in compliance of regulatory requirements, being able to comply with those anti-money laundering requirements, and being able to do that in terms of controlling who has access to the platform, but still give them a lot of the power and the flexibility of having a platform out there now that anybody can make horses available, anybody can purchase, and anybody can trade. There's nothing out there right now that allows us to be able to evolve and to be able to take this through the stages which we plan for Equideq.
Very good. Okay, well, there's actually quite a number of questions, so I think we'll just dive straight in. Oliver is asking, how long did it take to develop the platform?
A long time. Yeah, no, look, it's the interesting thing again about, you're looking at a technology, and we're talking about a technology here, but what are you doing? You're out there solving a challenge. You're out there solving a pain point. And I'm lucky. I've worked in technology and IT for the last 20 years. I'm very involved in the horse industry, very involved in breeding. I have a few mares out here that are ready to pop, actually, and was up late last night, just back and forth watching them. But really, it's out there working with the industry, all the stakeholders, gathering those requirements, automating a lot of those processes, and really developing a lot of those algorithms and putting them and developing them into the platform and then taking it forward. It's been about 2 years. 2 years to date of work, and launched it, like I said, just before Christmas with the Irish National Stud, and now scaling with partners in the UK and the US, which is very exciting.
Great. Okay. Well, Paul is asking, does the platform track and log the ongoing management of the horse?
Absolutely. That is key, right? And I think I might have alluded to that earlier. This is not just about fire and forget. You're not just selling something here and selling it to people and throwing it over the fence to them. It's about, if I give the example of what we've done with that foal with the Irish National Stud, and tying in the user experience, on our platform, we promote that foal in advance, even before it's born. People can actually, we're sharing details with them about the brood mare, about the foaling process below in the stud. We're sharing information with them about the photographs and updates on when the foal is actually born. We can then, people can now have reserved that foal. They're now going to be able to buy a share in it. We're going to take them along on the journey, Paul, of being able to see that foal grow throughout the summer, go to the public auction, prep for the sales, go to the public auction in Goffs or Tattersalls. They'll see it live in the ring. They might follow that horse then right through to it being trained, to racing, right back into its own racing career. So throughout that entire cycle, we have all the different stakeholders, like I mentioned, the trainer, the consignor, the agent that's managing this horse on behalf. They're all getting regular payments on their account in Equideq for the management and ongoing updates for the shareholders in this horse.
Very good. Okay, well, there's a number of questions here, and some of them allude to the analogies with the NFT development at the moment. So we'll come to that in a minute. But there's another comment here. Many thanks, Michael. This is a very innovative application of blockchain technology. But there's two questions: is this a regulated business, and if so, by which authority? And second, do you have any competitors in the space? And again, here the analogy to NFTs in terms of what we're seeing in other areas. So you did mention regulation during your talk there. So you are a regulated industry, yes?
So from the outset, we've been working with a lot of research institutions, working with UCC actually in the Financial Services Innovation Centre, which has been terrific. We've been engaged actually with the Central Bank Innovation Hub as well, which has been a fantastic resource. And we've built this from the outset really in terms of adhering to financial services best practice, but also complying to all the legal requirements and any regulatory requirements that are there. And I touched on some of them very important legally around anti-money laundering and some of those requirements. But the fact is, crowdfunding isn't regulated in Ireland right now. Okay, in fact, it's regulation. European regulation is only coming in later this year for the first time, and we're working and committed to working with the regulators in ensuring that we're fully compliant with these regulations when they come in, and this is the same for any crowdfunding that goes on right now in Ireland and a lot of European countries. So this is an evolution actually, and it's interesting, and we're part of it. Right, we're out there automating a lot of processes that need to be automated, but we're able to now bring it along the journey and keep pace with the regulatory requirements that are coming into effect. So the timing is brilliant in terms of what we're doing. But there's still a lot of other areas just to mention, probably, right? I mean, the regulation of racing, right? A lot of people don't think about that. It's actually quite heavily regulated from the racing standpoint, and you're familiar with the Turf Club and Horse Racing Ireland. You've data protection regulation, right? Data Protection Acts and the GDPR, which is very, very important for adherence as well. But then, of course, there's the Financial Services Regulation, which is and the legal requirements in that respect, which are critical. So, yeah, I mean, and probably just worth mentioning as well, for us, regulation is terrific, right? Anything that can bring, more security, more transparency, more trust, more confidence, and really open this up to a much, much wider audience that have greater confidence in investing and in trading in bloodstock is something to be welcomed. So we're looking forward to that.
Okay, I'm conscious of time, and we have a couple of questions to run through. So I'll see if we can be brief on them. John is asking, how are the returns on appreciation or prize money calculated, and are these terms written into the blockchain algorithms?
Yeah, so a good question, right? Yes, first of all, everything is automated in that respect. Right. So really, I guess when someone buys a horse, your prize money is pro rata based on how many shares you own in the horse. So if you own 50% of the shares of the horse, you're going to get 50% of the prize money. Now that's a great example. Right now, we're using blockchain. We're locking in a lot of that information, contractual information, into the blockchain, right? And those smart contracts can actually be built in to actually provide more and more automation. So our goal here, and this is really, I guess, where you're looking at the timing and working with the other stakeholders and the other third parties to really be able to do more and more on the blockchain. And without probably going too in depth into it, Paul, there's a lot of other external parties that are involved in, for example, when a horse wins a race, prize money is awarded from a third party. That needs to come into the system and be distributed. Okay, so there's actually, their things are actually working with third parties to be able to build in that level of automation. But eventually, I mean, some people are probably aware of oracles, right, which are trusted inputs that you can actually have into the blockchain. And these types of oracles will eventually feed into the system based on a smart contract, be able to distribute and automate. And that's the type of decentralized type of approach, our governance type of approach, because right now we are actually doing some of that automation, but we're able to now develop the platform and automate more and more with those smart contracts to be able to automate more and more so we can step back. So people already know straight away, boom, based on these smart contracts, I know, boom, that this will happen automatically based on the contract, smart contracts, based on what's set in the blockchain, that this is a done deal and will happen when my horse wins or is placed in a race. And that's where you move from that, I guess, centralized governance to that decentralized type of governance. And that's the power of blockchain. But again, it's timing, the other stakeholders, the other parties really coming on board with this technology to be able to allow us to do more and more.
Okay. Well, Tristan is asking, how long did it take to build a platform and how big is your dev team? So you've kind of addressed that already, but how big is your team?
So I have a fantastic, terrific guy working with me as CTO. His name's Neil Bellamy. He's worked for years developing and working in betting exchanges, working on trading platforms, and he's really the brains behind a lot of what we've actually developed here. Neil has and myself have then been working with other third parties and other contractors that we've been pulling in to be able to help us and support us. But look, I suppose on balance, there's probably been about 3 or 4 people throughout the time period involved in helping us really bring this to fruition. But without Neil Bellamy, he's been superb in helping us develop.
It sounds like the classic recipe of the 2 pizza team. That
and that's where it starts. Absolutely. Yeah.
Very good. Okay. So next question again is kind of coming back to the NFT idea, where it's asking, is this a kind of NFT tokenization? So I suppose it is almost like you're creating a digital twin of the horse that can be tokenized. But is that the correct kind of terminology for what you're doing?
Not really, Paul. I mean, non-fungible tokens by design, each and every one of them is unique. Okay, you could create a non-fungible token of a horse. Okay, but really what we're about is creating fungible tokens that all have equal value, because we're taking an asset and we're fractionalizing that into hundreds or thousands of security tokens, which each have equal value.
Okay. Well, then the follow-up question is, do you issue the tokens from Ireland?
Do we issue them from?
From Ireland.
Ireland, we do. Yeah.
Okay. And just as a question there in terms of will the presentation be made available offline? So we generally do ask for permission to make a version of the slides, generally a non-editable version of the slides available offline, usually with any sensitive information taken out. But we'll address one last question very briefly because we are running over time. How are fractionalized shares treated from a tax point of view? And also, how would someone guard against the dilution of their shareholding if an overall horse owner decided to offer additional shares in a horse after the initial offering?
So all taxes are the responsibility of the individual, right? Anybody will tell you that, right? If you're buying and selling and you're trading and you're making capital gains, and it's your duty and your job to obviously report that, right? And be responsible for that. The dilution one's an interesting one, right? And that's actually one of the real focuses and goals of what we're doing here, because in the past, that's exactly what can happen. People buy shares in a horse, but you know what? In some places, people are spitting on hands and shaking their hands, right? That's a contract, okay? And some have, drawn up some small contracts. Others don't. This is the whole point of what we're doing here. We're actually showing an asset. We're fractionalizing into it a fixed number of shares, doesn't change, okay? And those shares are now made available on a public exchange, and people can actually view and see all the transactions that happen. They can't see the identity of each of the individuals that are purchasing, but they can actually see that these shares are actually being purchased or traded on the exchange. So in terms of what people see, the number of shares, the value of those shares, the types of transactions, the rewards and benefits that come with ownership of those shares, all now for the first time, fully viewable, auditable, defensible on a blockchain ledger and visible through a blockchain explorer. So,
great. Okay. Thank you very much. Well, again, there's more thanks and praise coming in there. That I think the number of and variety of questions there has shown that it's certainly piqued the interest for the audience. So thank you very much for that presentation. It was a great context to understand that very specific application of blockchain technology. So thank you very much, Michael.
You're welcome, Paul. Thank you very much.
Okay. Now, we're going to move on, and I'm going to share my screen again, and we are going to have some detail on some other activities from Blockchain Ireland. So essentially, the Blockchain Associations Forum is an initiative from the British Blockchain Association, and it's to bring together blockchain associations and groups around the world. So the BAF is a global harmonization initiative created to raise the profile of national blockchain associations internationally. So again, it's trying to provide a collective voice and a forum for exchange of ideas and best practice in governance around the world. So it was a very well supported initiative, and Ireland, as you can see, is a founding member. So we have earned this badge to use on our documentation. And as many of you will have seen, we have developed an email newsletter for the membership with our distinct branding, and we can add that to it. So the founding member countries, as you can see, there was more than 40 there, and there are several from some of the larger countries as well. And it's great to see that this was not just an East or a West initiative. It's the Americas have very much embraced this. So it's North and South and East and West. So and it was expressed that one of the longer term aims of the Associations Forum is to become a regulatory and advisory body for blockchain globally. So essentially, the analogies that were drawn were to be along the lines of something like the International Air Transport Authority on the one hand, and indeed the UN on the other, in terms of a broad forum for shared ideas and collective work. So it's certainly a very interesting prospect. But I'm going to stop my screen share now, and I'm going to move on to the next portion of our agenda this morning. So as you'll have seen from the email newsletter, that the Blockchain Ireland Event Week team have been working hard in terms of gathering suggestions for speakers and events to bring together into a digital program. So the co-chair of the Event Week Working Group is Dara Lawler, and I'm going to ask Dara to come on camera now and to give us, or to introduce the update and to introduce the newest member of the team. Dara.
Good morning, Paul, and thanks for the introduction. My colleague Amber Davey will be sharing her screen to bring up a few slides. Amber is an intern who's recently joined us and who's been working her fingers to the bone with us as we pull together the momentum for Blockchain Ireland Week. So I'll just give you a little bit of context about what we've been up to. Many of you will remember that there was a very successful Blockchain Ireland Week in 2019, primarily sponsored by Consensus at the time. We had it was very successful and gathered a lot of interest and a lot of momentum at the time. Sadly, the pandemic kiboshed us last year. And so we decided, though, that we weren't going to let that happen again this year. And we wanted to plan out a week of appropriate events to both raise awareness and interest and understanding of blockchain and the challenges and opportunities presented by these new emerging technologies for Ireland as a nation, as a society, and I suppose as a collection of business opportunities. We decided, given the constraints brought upon us by the pandemic, that meant that it was by now of necessity going to be a virtual event. We decided to embrace that, and we looked, in fact, to blockchain technology in some ways to inspire how we organize the event, and said, well, okay, we can be as distributed as we like. We don't need people to get on planes or come to hotels or fly and travel to be with us. We can use modern technology to spread the net as widely as possible. So we looked to a distributed network of contributors, and we've been successful in achieving both a great global spread, but also at a geographical level, but also a great spread of technical depth and of use cases and themes. So we established ourselves a team, Blockchain, the Foundation of Trust. So I suppose to put distributed ledger technologies in all their glory as something based in and around the creation and maintenance of trust, which has been really adequately demonstrated by the use case that Michael just brought us through just now. So what we did was we said we would crowdsource. We would reach out as far as we could and get as many potential contributors as possible, with a view to presenting an online festival of in and around the uses of blockchain. And so from that, we've identified that we're going to go from the 24th to the 27th of May. We managed to get around about 80 candidate speakers, and topics have gathered to us, and we're working our way through processing, capturing, scheduling those contributors now. It's a combination of events. There's some straightforward presentations, panel discussions, fireside chats, and various other interactive engagements. The program has allowed us to break out into 4 major themes for each of the days, and Amber will go into a little bit more detail on each day at the moment. But broadly, the themes that we're going under will be: on the Monday, it'll be around governance, regulatory and policy space. Tuesday, we'll be looking at sustainability, an area where blockchain is making great contributions to helping us move towards a more sustainable world. On Wednesday, we're looking at startups and innovation. And on Thursday, then, looking at what enterprise has been up to in their use of blockchain. So in the knowledge that we're running behind in time, I'll pass over to Amber, who will give you a walkthrough at a high level of what's going on each one of the days. Amber, over to you.
Thank you very much, Dara. So yeah, as Dara said, I'm just going to give a brief overview of the programme for each of the days of the conference, starting off with Monday the 24th. So Monday is our Governance, Regulatory and Policy Day. At the moment, we have 15 events planned and 10 of those are confirmed. And we are anticipating that around 4 or 5 of them are going to be panel discussions. In terms of the topics that are going to be touched upon on this day, we're looking at tokenization of real estate, trust and privacy and zero knowledge proof, decentralized finance as well. And in terms of the keynote speakers that we're going to have on this day, we're going to be hearing from Nadia Hewitt from the World Economic Forum. Nadia leads the Data for Common Purpose initiative and focuses on projects that center around the future of technology and governance in data policy and blockchain. And she's going to be talking about inclusive deployment of blockchain technology. And then we're also going to be hearing from Tuomas Hendrik Ilves, who's the former president of Estonia. And Ilves has a lot of experience using technology and blockchain in the Estonian public sector. So great addition to the program. I'm sure we'll get a great insight into governance models in the public sector. And then also in terms of keynote speakers on the Monday, we'll also be hearing from Anthony Day from IBM. Which brings us to Tuesday, which is our Sustainability and Global Day. So we're looking at 25 events on this day. At the moment, 18 have been confirmed, locked down. And from there, we're thinking another 4 to 5 panels that we're going to have. In terms of what's going to be covered on this day, there's going to be a lot of global perspectives for our global day. So we're hearing from the Singapore University of Social Sciences, Swedish fintechs, the African Blockchain Institute are going to be running a number of events. For example, on cryptocurrency across the African Union. There's also going to be an event that is a open discussion between Blockchain Ireland and the African Blockchain Institute on the potential benefits of transglobal cohesion and cooperation between institutions. And we'll also be hearing from Asia Blockchain Society as well. And then on the sustainability side of things for that day, we'll be touching on a number of topics, including sustainability and blockchain, DTL and cryptocurrency. And we'll also be hearing about green digital finance and the impact of green bonds. And in terms of keynote speakers for our Tuesday, we'll be hearing from Petros Zilglavis from the European Commission. He'll be discussing European blockchain strategy. We'll be hearing from Sanjay Poddar from Accenture, who will be talking about innovation where it's needed most. So in blockchain, Internet of Things, AI, and machine learning. And we'll also be hearing from Killian Leonowicz from EY, who's going to be talking about differentiating Irish agri-food products through sustainability and provenance and the role that blockchain plays there. Which brings us on to Wednesday, which is our Startup and Innovation Day. So we have around 22 events planned, 16 speakers confirmed as things stand at the moment. And on the Wednesday, we're looking at around potentially 6 panels. Lots of innovation on the topics that are going to be touched upon on the Wednesday. We'll be hearing about how blockchain can be used in pet identification. So like in microchips for your pets. We'll be looking at NFTs in things such as in whiskey and in music. There'll be discussions around the future of finance as well. And we'll also be touching upon the educational and career side of things. So we'll be hearing from NCI and also DCU. So from our keynote speakers, we'll be hearing from Irina Tal from DCU. Well, of course, we're going to have Michael Young, who we heard this morning, who'll be talking again about Equideq and bloodstock sales on DLT. And then we'll also be hearing from the Startup Lunchbox with Fiona Delaney. And the topic there is going to be smart energy grids. And that brings us to our last day, which is the 27th, and the subject here is enterprise. So at the moment, we've 22 events planned, 18 locked down fully at the moment, with another 3 or 4 to be confirmed. And we're looking at around four panels on the Thursday, on the last day, in terms of the topics that are going to be touched upon on the Thursday. We're looking at blockchain for the insurance industry, fund financial data publishing on blockchain, the challenges in recruiting for blockchain, and we'll also be hearing as well from Enterprise Ireland on opportunities in Horizon Europe. So just as a taster of some of the things we're going to be hearing on the last day. And then in terms of our keynote speakers, we're going to be hearing from Nena Dukazov, from the head of the Department of the Ministry of Health in Slovenia, and she's going to be talking about the European Blockchain Partnership. We'll also be hearing from Mike Demessi from BMY. Pascal Donoghue is going to be closing us out on the last day, and we'll also be hearing from David Saul and Mike Bennett from IOTA as well. So that is the overview of the program as things stand at the moment. Lots of exciting things to come, and of course, if anybody, just for after the webinar, if anybody wants any further information, please do feel free to get in touch. Our emails are on the slides there. And on that note, I'll pass back to Dara.
Yeah, well done, Amber. And you can see how we're keeping her busy. So listen, really, we'll be seeing, in consequence of all of this, we're going to have the revamped Blockchain Ireland website will be on live by the end of this week. We'll have the program finalized and published next week, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you and your networks reflecting the effort that's gone into creating this exciting festival of blockchain events, in hopefully registering and supporting as many of them as you possibly can. If you have any queries, the contacts are there. The slide deck can go out afterwards. So I'll hand back to Paul now, with many thanks to Amber for bringing us through the detail on that.
Indeed, thank you very much. I'm sure that gives you a flavour of just how much work and activity has gone into this already. Again, thanks to everybody for their submissions. It has generally been the membership that has put all of those suggestions together. So it's fantastic work. So please do feel free to ask any questions that you wish. We are a little bit behind on our schedule, but we do have a few minutes, so please do feel free to jump in with any questions there. This is the startups working group, and the working group has a very successful series called the Lunchbox series, and the next one is tomorrow at 1, and you can go either to the LinkedIn page or indeed you can go to YouTube, and if you look for the Blockchain Ireland Startups Group, you will see all of the previous lunchboxes there, as well as links to upcoming events. So as you can see there, NFTs is another popular topic, and they're going to be talking about digitalization, tokens, and sustainability with Dr. Pedro Baez, of the head of research with the Blockchain Climate Institute, Sorka Mulligan, founder at SME Chain, Gary Connolly of Host in Ireland, who hopefully needs no introduction, and of course all put together and moderated by Fiona Daly of Origin Chain Networks, who is the chair of the Blockchain Startups Group. So again, that just kind of characterizes the activity of the individual groups, and most of the groups, in terms of the startups group, the enterprise, the legal and regulatory, and the developers group, all run regular events for the membership. So the developer working group, led by Bernard Cochran, last week ran a very successful monthly talk with Simon Brown, who was talking about Ethereum scaling solutions. So again, very focused content for each of the working groups there. So Bernard is going to be participating in Blockchain Week as well, and he will have a talk on how to build a self-sovereign digital credentials ecosystem using Sovereign, Evernum, and Hyperledger. So again, just a kind of a flavor of the work that's being done by each of the individual groups. I think we've covered today the various aspects of what we're trying to do in terms of the the association in general in terms of our program for monthly speakers, as well as the activities of the group. So just a reminder, as Dara said, that we're hopefully going to have our new website online by the end of this week, and it will be the primary source of information for everything around the event week, as well as our hopefully weekly direct emails to the membership. So keep an eye out on your inbox. And I'm just being reminded here that we're not going to have our regular monthly meeting in May, obviously because most of the focus will be on the event week. We have our new Twitter account as well, which is at blockchain_IRL. So please do find that and follow it, and it will also be used for disseminating information. So with that, we are pulling back more or less to our schedule. So I'm just going to hand back to Professor O'Connor just for the closing remarks.
Thanks very much, Paul. What a fantastic meeting, and thank you all for your participation and your attendance. I'd like to thank Sarah Watson for the production and for the smooth running of today's event. Thank you very much, Sarah. We very much appreciate it. You could see with Dara Lawlers and Ember Davies the work that, as Paul has said, has gone on. We're on now the final stage of producing the programme. So we look forward to that very much, and thank Dara, Paul, Amber, and all the team for the work that they're doing. And as I've said, for yourselves, all of you who've participated and will contribute to Blockchain Week. I suppose I'd say with Michael Young, what a really fantastic presentation. And thank you so much, Michael. I think you showed that what blockchain is good at, look at a problem, see can it solve it, and how well you have shown that. And I think the work that you're doing would hopefully mirror perhaps what's going on in other industries. It's about digital transformation. It's about how we're reinventing the past, looking at problems, and perhaps reinventing the future. So thank you very much for that. And as a Munster supporter, I hope at some stage you might look at that whole other sports and see how, and as a Cork man, how you can apply what you're doing to other areas, and I'm sure you will do in the future. And just again to hopefully you'll join Fiona Delaney, Saoirse Mulligan, Gary Conley, and Dr. Pedro Bays tomorrow at lunchtime. It's always a very exciting event, so hope you can join that. So again, thank you all. Enjoy the May weekend. Imagine it's coming into the summer now, so enjoy it. Stay safe, and hope to see you all at Blockchain Ireland Week.
Thanks for watching. You might be interested to know we are now taking expressions of interest for our Masters in Blockchain, which will commence September 2021. Just email your CV to info@ictskillnet.ie.